You're ready to be premature all over again.
Wow, that's impressive.
Quick
bro.
reset. Quick reset.
Yeah, that's right. Licking gin balls.
It's just going to be a vicious cycle.
Who knew the job was pro bono?
I was so high that I shit myself at some point.
Okay, get still here. Somebody, everybody mute. Goddamn, you're killing me.
My SEAL Team 6 went to SEAL Team 12.
There's nothing wrong with punching above your weight.
To play with you.
better.
Well,
I don't know what's
also-
worse. You're a ginger or you've been vaccinated.
You sit around and drink and solve the world's problems, right?
Hey, let's go ahead and unwrap this present
So,
and let the debate begin.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is a new week, new episode. We do this each and every time. This is not new for you. It's not new for us, but we still enjoy it, and hopefully you do too. We are back for another interesting topic. Glad to be here. The four horsemen are in the studio. Let's waste no time. Let's get started. Gentlemen, how is everybody doing today?
Football is live!
Say, can you see by
By the dong's early light.
light
Right. I am.
The beautiful.
Mac's got nothing. Mac.
I'm with you. I just sit back and wait every week now to see
Just see-
what kind of fire they're going to bring.
If nobody says anything, then you're like, oh, it must be my week. Let me say something.
Right?
That's right.
Oh, shit. Did I check my text message?
That's right. Glad everybody's here. Happy that you are. Looking forward to this episode. But, as always, let's go ahead and jump into our drinks, get that out of the way, and then we will go from there. So, you know what? I'm going to just let you guys decide, maybe text back and forth, decide who wants to go first. Who would like to tell me about their drink?
I'm just
Rock-
going. Fuck
rock,
it.
paper-
I'm
okay,
going.
look at that.
I'm going. No. I'm doing a Ginger Collins.
Okay.
So
So it's a red-headed Collins. Is that what this is?
For sure.
Okay.
Sure. I know I don't know. I guess it was a year or so ago. I grabbed a bottle because I said that I'd been looking at this bottle for years. Always wondered what it was. It's that Domaine de Canton, whatever. It's kind of almost like a lemony lime kind of color. It's I don't know. It's got the grooves going up the bottle, but anyway, it's a ginger flavored liqueur, and I couldn't remember if I'd done the Gold Rush before, which is one of the ones you can make with that, but I ended up going with the Ginger Collins. So it's gin, the Domaine de Canton fresh lemon juice, and club soda.
And it is a ginger, what?
Ginger
What is it?
Collins.
Ginger Collins. So is this kind of like the Tom, the wine?
Yeah,
It's just,
I mean,
okay.
some club soda, you
Gotcha.
just add the.
Whatever this
I almost want to stop saying the word because I don't even know how to pronounce it. The Domaine de Canton.
The Domaine Gray Gang from Hateful Eight. Okay. Very nice. All right. Ginger.
So my work here is done.
Look, I tell you,
I'll,
you run one episode and look at you. You think,
Yep,
fuck
it
it.
goes to my head.
right.
I'll let you guys know.
I'm
I'll be
going
back in a little
first.
bit. Discuss your drinks.
All right. So we have the Ginger Collins. I'll go next then. All right. I'm going to go next. Fuck it. So last episode, in case for all you listeners who weren't paying attention, I was trying to come up with something entirely new. And so I decided I would make a drink each week and dedicate it to one of the other members on this show. And last episode, I did, I don't know that we actually came up old fashioned by Haas, whatever it was, but it was a drink dedicated to Haas. And there were seven bourbons in there.
Suicide by bourbon.
Yes. There were 7 different bourbons in that drink, and it was an old fashioned, but it was made with 7 different bourbons. It was blended. So this week I was doing it again, coming back, and I got to come up with a drink. So I did my usual. I started thinking about a drink. What's going to work? The individual. Does it work for the individual? Does it speak about this person? And one drink, sadly, was not enough. So much like Haas and his 7 bourbon old fashioned that I created, I felt like one drink was not enough to encapsulate this individual. So I decided I would make 3 in one. So what I'm doing is I'm starting with this, which is a glass of ice with a little grenadine in the bottom. And then we're going to take this little gem, which is the base of a tequila sunrise, orange juice and tequila. And then we're going to take this little gem, which is a margarita made with homemade margarita mix. And then we're going to take...
Could you not find any store-bought margarita mix for that?
I could have. And then we're going to take this, which is a Paloma and we're going to add that. And it is going to give us what I am calling the Paloma Rita
Runs.
Sunrise.
It is nice and stratified. I'll give you that.
It does look pretty.
3 iconic tequila beverages, all rolled into one beautiful glass. It is the Paloma Rita Sunrise. So it is a Paloma. It is a margarita, just a basic margarita, sweet and sour mix, all that, and then a tequila sunrise.
If you'd done it with mezcal, your garnish could have been like a sock, like a baby sock,
Just hanging over the lip,
like a dirty old Band-Aid.
So I imagine there is no guesswork in terms of who this one belongs to.
Which means there's no guesswork as to who's
the
next
last one belongs to.
Yeah,
exactly. So Mag, this one's to you, my very own Paloma Rita Sunrise.
So
Very nice.
during the process of doing all of this, do you get anything done on Sundays after the call?
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
Yeah,
Besides
a
passing
nap.
out,
He
That doesn't
gets a
count.
nap in. Yeah.
Maybe.
So
That's why
what kind of
that's why you got to
tequila?
be aggressive in the morning, because I know
Yeah.
you're at church, which consumes a lot of time in your day.
It does. It's true. It's true. I started on Friday, and I was just like, okay, what am I going to do? And I actually made one of these Friday because I was like, is this going to work? And could I layer it? So yeah, it works. The Paloma Rita Sunrise. There you go, Mac. You got a new drink dedicated to you, brother. 3
Let's try that one of
iconic
these
tequila cocktails all rolled into one.
Again, I think before you go too much further, you should take a picture of that because that is a pretty drink.
Or now switch to a straw and work from the bottom.
Well,
Yeah.
I needed to add in a little more because I put in too much of the sunrise. So I need to add in a little of the margarita and the Paloma.
Oh,
All right, so we're back.
Clearly, that's the problem.
We're
with the
back.
drink.
It's actually quite good.
Okay.
Obviously, I took the recipes and had to cut them down because I knew I had to fit it in a glass. So each recipe is basically half of the original, which is why there's extra. So, but yeah, it's not bad. I was going to go with store-bought Mac on the margarita mix, but I was like, no, not going to do it.
Had
I'm
that
gonna,
discussion now. You
I know,
cannot
but
do it.
because we have, and you're like, I'm going with homemade now. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm going to do homemade. But yeah, it's actually quite tasty if that's what you're into, Paloma Rita Sunrise. So there you go. All right, Mac, we're going to jump to you. What are you drinking?
So interestingly enough, I
Not
did go with a tequila-based drink. No, I did go with a tequila-based
Okay.
drink. So you and I talked. I bought some of these Zoa energy drinks that are kind of
You're just all up on the rocks, Wang.
rocks, sweaty. I just got done finished working out in the Iron Paradise.
Nice.
Gonna crack open by Iron Paradise. I mean, taking a nap. Crack open a Zoa. So I was looking, at some options on things to do with that, and there really wasn't a whole lot. But I did come across a Zoa Mana. So it's basically 2 ounces of the Terramana tequila. So again, Grinch just really leaning into the whole rock thing. And then 4 ounces of the what is this? The pineapple coconut energy drink. Pour it over ice and shake it up, and it's pretty good actually. I would definitely do this again.
It's like one of the first or second drinks Haas started with. Just you churched it up a little bit, which was vodka and Red Bull.
Yes, which he did not
Exactly,
like.
right. This is the
Hawaiian
newer
version.
generations. Yeah,
Mhm.
The
Vodka,
Hawaiian
Red
version.
Bull.
No, there you
But
go.
it's pretty good. I would definitely do this again.
Okay. And that's it. It's just those 2 ingredients.
It's those 2 ingredients. It's like I said, 2 ounces of the, and I would imagine again you could use any tequila. I did, want to stay true
Yes.
to the whole recipe and use the Terramana Blanco, and then the Zoa pineapple coconut.
Well, if you use another tequila, you can't really call it a Zoa Mana, can you? Because it's right there in the
Whatever
fucking
fuck
name.
I want to call it.
Fair
Yeah.
enough. Okay.
Don't you judge me.
You're right. I apologize. Let's move
Another
on.
another Wayne's World bit.
Yeah.
Right.
Tasty, refreshing.
That's right. Little yellow
See.
Nuprin. All right. Haas, go ahead. The
I was
stage
going to
is
say,
yours.
sadly, I am out of Kirkland Signature tequila, so I will have to stick with the rocks.
That was a big
Terramana.
bottle.
Don't fucking judge me. Somebody taught me how to make homemade sweet and sour mix. That bottle's not going to last.
Yeah, we didn't teach you how to bathe in fucking tequila, though. Holy shit.
What do you think we filled the hot tub with, buddy?
That's smart. Are you drinking that water? Yes, I am.
Yes, I am. Just take a straw in with you. You're good to go.
That's it. All right. Well, let's close it out. Haas, what did you bring to the table as the last of us today?
Yeah, I don't think I've had it on the show. I've had it, but I don't think I've had it on the show yet. So I'm drinking Blanton's tonight.
No, you have not had it on the show.
So, yep, I decided in honor of the drink last week, the topic of today, and you fine gentlemen, that I would pour a healthy portion. And
can you hold that bottle up again? Were I not mistaken, that looked fairly empty.
That's okay. So I have another full one in my closet hidden.
His hand's just really big.
That's the small bottle he took back from Charlotte with him.
I have the go.
Wait, hold on.
That's really full.
Okay. Oh my god, dude's got multiple bottles of Blanton's.
Grinch is about to go. Don't judge me.
I too have my full bottle of Blanton's.
I'm a giant.
Right. I feel like a hobbit near Gandalf right now.
It's got a little horse.
Okay. Yeah. Look at you. It should have been the other way.
That's a pony. That's not a horse.
That's right. So you're just doing the straight Blanton's on ice. That's it.
Blanton's 1 cube.
There you go. Do you ever do you don't ever do multiple cubes in anything though? Like if you're just drinking it, you're always 1 cube. Like you got to point that out.
You just like the big shaped ice ball.
That's it. That is it. That was actually a mold of my testicles, the ice cube tray, just so you know.
No, it would have been much larger, I think.
At least one would have been.
One.
As rumor has it, right?
That's right.
Will Chamberlain's got nothing on you, buddy.
All right. Well, as always, to your Bland, your Zoamana, your Ginger Collins, and my Paloma Rita Sunrise. Cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers.
Another great episode.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's jump into it. All right, so I threw this one out early in the week. Said I wanted to talk about it because of where we are. Where at this point we're in March, so there is going to be something that's occurring for those that are aficionados of the game, of the beautiful game. We are going through World Cup qualifiers here in March. The last of the CONCACAF Confederation qualifiers are occurring to get us ready for the World Cup at the end of this year. And so I thought it would be a good time to go ahead and talk about, I won't say our beloved, I'm not sure they're our beloved United States men's national team. Maybe they are, but they are going through their final round of qualifying games. There are 3 games left. And so I thought this would be a good time to go ahead and talk about, the misfiring that occurred a few years ago when they did not make the 2018 World Cup. Here we are on the cusp of 2022. Will they or will they not make it? Now I know, Haas, you said a few months back, like they're looking really good and it's pretty much a lock.
Yeah,
all
they
things
were
being equal
until they played Canada and shit the bed.
Yeah. And then a few things happen and now and it's interesting because I won't say they're sitting in a tenuous spot, but in a lot of ways they are as they come down the stretch here. So I thought it would be a good time to go ahead and talk about it. And I'd like to talk about it because we are coming up on the World Cup, but I'd also like to have a debate on the likelihood on whether or not the men's national team makes the 2022 World Cup. Because I know they didn't make it in 2018. It was a massive blow for United States soccer in terms of that. It had been 32 years, not always going. They had been going for 32 years. And then in 2018, they don't make it. Here we are, 2022. You'd like to think that, they've learned, but with 3 games left, a lot of questions still to answer. And so that's why I thought, hey, maybe we have a debate today, talk about whether or not each of us on the show thinks they will or will not make it and why, and see where that leads us. So that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Hey, refresh my memory real quick. The World Cup, though, is not going to be during the summer this year, right? It's going to be during the fall?
Yes, sir. Winter, actually.
So.
It will occur November to December in, where is the... Yes, thank you. Qatar. Out there in the Middle East somewhere. 2022.
I actually saw a number or some of the different venues under construction when I was passing through before I left.
Okay, I was about to say, if you're talking about they're still under construction, that seems problematic. But you're talking about
I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it in some cases, depending on.
Oh boy,
I won't name anyone in particular though.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I have been following United States soccer for a great many years. Hosh, you and I have watched a number of games together in the World Cup. We've seen off matches, international friendlies, and so on and so forth. So I thought this would be an interesting topic in terms of whether or not we think they will or will not make it. So let me go ahead and start by saying, here we are in March. There are 3 games left. They will be played March 24th, March 27th, and March 30th by the United States. And those games are going to be against Mexico, Costa Rica, and Panama. The reason I wanted to talk about this is in the standings, we are currently sitting second. And by all accounts, people would say, well, then that should be a no-brainer. The top 3 qualify automatically. Number 4 goes into a playoff against another confederation to get in, almost as a wild card. And then 5th and below are out. So Canada's sitting in the top spot, USA in 2, you would think that's a lock. But the problem is between 2nd and 5th place, only 5 points separate those teams. And there are 3 matches left. A win earns them 3 points. A draw earns them 1. A loss earns them nothing. What that ultimately means, though, is they're going to be playing the teams sitting in 3, 4, and 5 right now. We're second, and they're going to be playing Mexico, who's in 3rd, Panama, who's in 4th, and Costa Rica, who's in 5th. Mexico is drawn level with them in points at 21 points aside. Panama is sitting at 17, and Costa Rica is in 5th, outside the bubble at 16 points. So unfortunately, having to play those 3 teams means if they don't win, they could be sitting on the outside of this looking in at the end of March.
So would it be safe to say that, do you think a single win would be enough to kind of cement their status in the top 3 if they pick up 3 points?
Say this.
Or, I
mean, if they go to Mexico and they beat Mexico in Mexico, it'll be in Mexico City, I imagine. Yeah, Estadio Azteca.
It is.
I mean, yeah, Mexico's sitting first, so I mean, I think that would probably be a huge boon.
Mexico's in 3rd. Canada's in 1st.
I thought Canada.
Are they? I thought.
No, Canada's in 1st currently.
Are they?
With 25 points.
Just like
I'm
the
looking at
upside
old
down
numbers.
club, right?
Yeah.
But,
So this is the current table right now where we're sitting. And so, yeah, Canada has secured their spot with 3 games left. They're not going to end up outside the top 3. And they are just playing dominantly well right now. So surprisingly enough, I mean, as Haas said, Canada and USA played and we lost to Canada, we had not been trailing at halftime against Canada since 1983. And we have not lost to Canada since 1980. And of course, Canada came out in that game and dominated us. And so we were not able to obviously get back in on that one. And then I know we beat Honduras, which helped us. But now, again, we're going to be playing Mexico, Panama, and Costa Rica.
That was a lopsided thing where we played them in Minnesota. And the temperature was lower than the goals scored.
Right. 5 degrees, negative 12 wind chill. Obviously, Honduras is not used to those kinds of temperatures.
And I think strategically that was done on purpose.
I think
sure it was. Why wouldn't you?
but they're not going to have that as their benefit running down the stretch, unfortunately. As Haas said, they're going to be playing Mexico in Mexico City, which is going to give Mexico the advantage.
With Mexico on our heels or tied with us, I mean, if we go in and we get a W or a draw against Mexico, that puts us in a pretty good position.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is you're looking at playing Mexico in Mexico City.
Yep. And we've never won a qualifying match there.
Yeah, 36, 15, and 22 lifetime against Mexico. Obviously, Mexico having the 36 wins.
Right.
So that doesn't bode well going into their stadium, on their home field to try and pull out something that, you would think would need to be won to try and secure your spot.
Well, and this is the position they got into 4 or 5 years ago when they were in the last qualifiers for the 2018 it wasn't just that they had to win, they had to rely on the right teams to lose, and that didn't happen. So that's, at this point you want to be holding all the cards. You want to hold the destiny to your own future. You don't want to be in a position where you have to hope this person does this and this team does that. That makes it a difficult situation to navigate.
So the other 2 matches, do you know where they're being played?
Yeah, the Panama game will be at Exploria Stadium, which I don't know where that's at. It's a home game for us, quote unquote home game. That is in Orlando.
Yes, at the
What's that?
Lion Stadium.
Yeah.
At the Lion Stadium.
And then Costa Rica's at their national stadium.
Right. So obviously, Mac, you gave us the lowdown on the Mexico, kind of the history of Mexico and our situation with them. But if you look at Panama, we have beaten Panama 17 times. We've lost to them 3. We've drawn 4 historically since 1993. But unfortunately, in the last 3 World Cup qualifiers against them, we have drawn 1, won 1, and lost 1. So while our overall record demonstrates that we have been dominant in the last 3 World Cup qualifiers, we hadn't done so hot. We have not dominated. So that can potentially be problematic. And so, yes, we'll be playing here on home soil in Orlando, but does that guarantee us a win? No. And they were actually the team that beat us out in 2018 and got in, and we did not. So, how does that work to our advantage? I don't know. And I think in 2018, we played our last game against Trinidad and Tobago. All we needed was 1 point. We couldn't get it. I think we drew level in that game, and that's why we got bounced and Panama went through. So again, there's a position where we left it. It wasn't just in our hands. We needed other things to happen where it
just seems as a powerhouse, which I think is what we're supposed to be coming out of the CONCACAF, right?
Right.
This is yet again another instance where if we're not careful, we're going to be depending on certain scenarios to play out to make it in.
Right. And that's when it becomes an issue. And then finally, let's go ahead and throw Costa Rica. Right.
Fucking Costa Rica.
Historically, all time, we are 19 and 16 and 5. We beat them 19.
Yeah,
we've lost 16.
It's winning, but the problem is it seems like every time it's a FIFA World Cup match, we lose.
Yeah,
they just have our number.
Yeah, the last 3 World Cup qualifiers, we are 1 and 2 against Costa Rica, and we will be playing them at home. So, yeah, that's when it becomes a concern. Now, Mac, you asked the question: if we win just one of these games, yes, I potentially think winning one puts us at 24 points.
That's enough to keep us in the.
That's enough to keep us in the conversation. Yes. But unfortunately, you're going to play Mexico first on the 24th. And if you don't win that game, right, then you're going to move to Panama. What if you don't win? What if it's not a win? What if it's a draw?
My hope is if we can draw against Mexico, beat Panama, and draw against Costa Rica, I think we're okay.
We should be. I mean, there are a lot of scenarios, and I'm sure there are pundits out there that do this, and they run through all the numbers and they look at the games and the stats and they go, what are all the different roads to get there? But we can look at the stats all day long. But at the end of the day, and Grinch, you're being awfully quiet, the question ultimately is, between the 4 of us, do we think they've built a team to get there? And that's the part that I have reservations about in watching them play. My bigger
concern is I think they've got a team that can get there. But then once they're there, what do they do, right? I mean,
go ahead. Sorry.
No. I was going to say, I think it's just, kind of, adding on to the frustration that we've had at the World Cup, right? Where, that's fine. You make it, but you don't get out of group stage.
We have what I feel like is probably top down, side to side, depending on who makes the cut and not. Now, we did just hear that Gio Reyna, who plays in the Bundesliga in Dortmund, shortly before the podcast started, he went down with yet another injury. He had started the first time today, I think in like months. So that hurts. But with that aside, which does hurt because as a quality midfielder, you really want to be strong in that part of the field for sure. But I don't know. I think we have amazing talent. I mean, up front, you've got, obviously you've got Pulisic, who, I mean, he's doing well in the EPL at Chelsea. I'm a big fan of Anthony Robinson, who plays at Fulham. He's one of the main defenders. He's kind of a beast. My point is this. I could go on and name plenty of players. There's plenty of players that I feel like, and they're younger, a lot younger than what I feel like we've had in years past, that give us a better chance. I'm really excited to see if we can get there. And then if we do get there, what we can do actually. So I'd be highly disappointed if we don't make it, because I think we've got some real talent out there.
So ultimately, do you think we can make it?
Depends. Depends on what Berhalter does, who he starts, and who he puts in. And I mean, I think that's for me the biggest question mark is there's been a lot of ups and downs. There's been a lot of inconsistency in the play because these guys aren't playing together all the time. Unfortunately, I haven't seen full matches. I've only seen clips and recaps. So I couldn't speak to the totality of any match they've played or the philosophy behind and how it was executed or not. But I think the talent's there. It's deep, the deepest I think we've ever had. I think we're relatively healthy, as I understand it, but for the Reina situation today. I would have said before the Canada match, it was a for sure thing, and we were good to go. Now I have reservations.
I'm
going to let Grinch weigh in here because you've been awfully quiet, brother.
Yeah, no, I was kind of reading over some stuff in the broad sense, but listening to what everybody was saying, because you all follow this a lot closer than I do. I just think, for me with the U.S., the problem I always have with them is it always comes down to like this razor's edge, and so it suggests that they aren't consistent, and in terms of reliability, like you're just like, it's one slip up, is kind of where they end up positioning themselves over and over again. And you go, well, okay, so let's just say maybe this is the year they don't slip up. Well, then how confident are you in that team going into a World Cup where the competition level is going to be even higher? So, I mean, I don't know what all that means other than to say, I kind of keep coming back to when I think of the U.S. team, the U.S. men's national team, I don't really understand its identity. And I think some of it's just the arc of who the stars are, kind of when one's climbing, one's going down. And then maybe sometimes we get the right pieces, but we got the wrong coach and the wrong philosophy. It's like we never seem to have it all in sync. And then, then the inexplicable happens and you're just like, what just happened there? Whether it was coaching error, player error, or their head just wasn't in the game. So, I mean, on the one hand, of course, like I want to see them make it. But on the other hand, I'm like, yes, it's good to say you qualify, but are you going to be competitive?
Or does somebody else have a better chance of doing something when they're
there? Right. And and I will say, just to correct or clarify something I said earlier, the stadiums I saw, or at least one stadium I saw, Qatar, I think they got their shit together. I mean, they certainly being the first Arab world country
to
host is important to note. Second Asian country to host is, that's important. I do think they have their ducks in a row in terms of just the amount of resources and just their infrastructure that they're, it's noticeable when you leave their country and go to another country, which is where I saw a stadium that was like, I don't know that I would trust being in that stadium if I'm honest. So I don't want to insult the country of Qatar. I do think it's a good story. Regardless of the specter of bribery and so forth,
that fell around.
I mean, and the fact that it has to be played in freaking in wintertime because people would die if they tried to play it here in a couple months.
Right. And the average temp for that period of time, which normally I get, it is the off season for European leagues, June, July, it can get to 120. Now they said technology in the stadium can pull that temperature down 20, 30. 120 that's like a whole different ball game. There's hot and then there's that.
Right. You think you understand what that's like, and then
there's
actually being in that. Now, and again, it'll be interesting to see, right? Because the World Cup occurs generally a June to July timeframe in the summertime, and we know that's an off season for all international. And when I say international, I'm talking international club play. Here in the States, the MLS plays from March to October, so it runs right through the middle of their season. But international club play, those are off months because they play from August to May. Now they're going to be playing right through the middle of the season in November to December, just prior to Christmas. That'll wrap up. So it'll be interesting to see. A lot of these guys will be rolling through club team play and then leaving to go play international football to come back to the club, where normally they have the summer off. So all they're really doing is training for the World Cup in the summer. So it'll be interesting to see how a lot of these guys fit together, and does that throw a wrench in the functionality of a lot of these big teams like your Germanys, your Portugals, your Spains, your Englands, where these guys spend the summers playing together. They're not going to have that same benefit having to play club play right up until it's time.
Well, and I guess a good question would be, are they planning on suspending club play? I would assume so, for a period of time while they're playing the World Cup.
I have not heard that that's the intent.
Yeah.
So a lot of these guys are going to get called up, and their reserve players will play for the club team to keep the club team rolling. I have not heard.
But you may also have some players that decide to opt out of World Cup play to stay and play, on their side back at home, because that's where they're making the money.
Yeah,
I mean, I know it's probably one thing to say, oh, I played and I represented my country. That's great.
Right.
But, money talks a lot. So that'll be interesting to see what they do with that, as far as, like you said, the club play and being during the World Cup.
I just think if they did suspend it, I'm hoping they don't, because if guys do, does that give the USA an advantage now? Because some of your players are not going to play.
Do you want to win it that way? Or do you just not care?
Well, I mean,
you want to play against the best players, right?
Yes,
right.
Absolutely.
Well, and of course, it's also interesting to note, the expansion from 32 to 48 teams going into 2026.
Right.
It's the same idea. It's like, do you want to get in by simple virtue of additional spaces, or do you want to legitimately feel that you earned it? And then I guess the follow answering my own question to be like, well, if you win, I don't care. But
that's a fair statement.
Yeah. I mean, again, I mean, when I see the team, the thing that keeps standing out to me is just lack of consistency. But, I guess I should also note, like, I don't think there's a lack of effort. I mean, I think the team's playing with a lot of energy. They're playing hard, and that, like, you can't give that to players. I mean, I think that's a positive. And who knows, maybe it's like the classic, NFL or other, professional sports where it's like, you just have to be primed going into the big show. Doesn't matter how you got there, as long as you get there. And then once you're there, you better bring your A game and bring it every time.
Right. Exactly. Mac, actually, to answer your question, I apologize. Yes. Currently, the Premier League made an official announcement. It will be suspending league play from the 12th of November until the games subside. They'll pick up on Boxing Day, which is the day after Christmas, on the 26th. So it will allow any player in the Premier League to fulfill their national duty. And it says no other league has currently made the announcement, but they expect all of the other major leagues, La Liga, Serie A, the Bundesliga, to follow suit. So, yeah, you're right. They will actually, which is something they haven't done previously because of when the World Cup normally falls. So you'll get your wish. They will be playing, if they make it, they'll be playing the best of the best.
Well, I didn't say that was my wish, but
something else that jumped out at me as I was glancing through some notes. In the last 14 competitive matches, the U.S. has scored more than one goal 4 times. Has scored more than one goal just 4 times, and just once against Honduras has scored more than 2.
Right. Yeah, they're not putting up a lot of goals. They're not a prolific scoring team. They're not. And of course, people will argue, yes, but most football matches end 1-0, 2-1. Like, they're not. What was it? 2000, was it 18 or 2014? I think it was 2014 when Germany blew out Brazil like 8-0 in their match. I mean, that just doesn't happen at this level. These guys, it's going to be so. I get
with the new spread offense. Oh wait,
well, yeah.
Sorry.
But ultimately,
and what's this pass interference thing?
I think the problem being, while that's enough to win, it makes it difficult to look at your lineup and go, you do have prolific goal scorers. You can always count on when it's, we need to go score a goal. Like if you go back to the early 2000s, the Brian McBrides or the Clint Dempseys, people like that, where it's like, hey, we need a goal, man. Yeah, go score a goal, and they could do it like that. I don't know that we have those people. Christian Pulisic, he's more of a playmaker. He can score goals, but he's more of the guy he needs to be the guy controlling the midfield, controlling the play, and just making good decisions. He needs to be what Michael Bradley never was.
Josh Sargent, Bobby Woods and Tim Way. Those are the three guys, or not Bobby Woods, but Tim Way and Josh Sargent. Those are the two I've been seeing a lot of and hearing a lot about. And when it comes to prolific forwards that we would have on this, potentially have on this team, right. Along with potentially Jordan P. Folk. And then there's another guy.
Is it
Paul?
Ricardo
I love his name, Paul
Pepe?
Areola.
Areolas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look.
What about is it Pepe? P-E-P-I?
Ricardo? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing that certainly has jumped out in these notes as well, is the inconsistency of the center striker. It keeps changing, and these guys don't play a lot with each other. So, like, instinctively knowing where a player, where they're going to move and how they're going to move, as we know, is like, we use the term organic. Like, it's got to be instinctive, not the game's too fast to go, let me just see what's going on here with that. Especially we've all seen those classic drives where they're zipping down the field and it's clear they have no idea what they want to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's right. Like, we've gotten here. Now none of us are sure who is the alpha that's going to just wants the freaking ball and is going to make shit happen. Like, some of the, European and, Brazilian heroes we've seen that you're like, just get them the ball. The magic will happen, you know?
But they play at a different level, which we've discussed before, is they play at a different level where they are just so in tune with the game. It almost feels like there's no thinking involved, where sometimes it tends to be US overthinks gameplay. Haas, I was really excited just prior to the Canadian game where you were like, oh, US is going to take on Canada and you guys should really watch them and they're playing lights out. So I was like, fuck, I can't wait. I'll be honest. After they didn't make the World Cup in 2017, the qualifiers in 2017 for the 2018 World Cup, they fell off my map. And I started watching a lot of Premier League and a lot of club play.
Yeah, then you watch them get manhandled by Canada and you think I'm full of shit, right? Like, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, it's not that, but I the first thing I noticed when I came back to them was like, I don't recognize any of these people. I don't know the names, never heard of them.
Yeah, Berhalter's kind of revamped everything.
Which is fine if you're building from the ground up. If you're building through the youth program and you're bringing these guys up, I'm perfectly fine with that. It was one of the biggest issues that previous coaches have always had is how do you build through the youth system here in the States? And if that's what he's doing, I'm perfectly fine with it. But then I watched the gameplay against Canada and I was like, they were so ineffectual. Nothing they did seemed to work. It seemed like they were constantly overthinking. There was no control through the midfield. And Grinch, like you said, they'd get downfield and then it was like mice just running around in a fucking cage, not knowing what to do. And it was just like, there just seemed to be no technical ability.
And I'm going to oversimplify, but going back to the arc of like the last 20 plus years of the U.S. men's team, I think, what was his fucking name? It was like 3 coaches ago before Klinsmann.
Bruce Arena.
There's Arena.
It was like he had this fucked up system in mind of like a 5-4-1 or something he was doing. I don't even remember now. And it made no sense. And then you had players, it was almost like a nepotism for how they got through. And then they'd stay on the team, even though you didn't think they were the best that we had to offer. So it didn't work then. So then you get Klinsmann. And I think that the system it just balked. Like the antibodies rejected him,
right.
And so that was a failure for probably reasons beyond Klinsmann's control. And that's not, giving him a free pass of just saying it all would have been right had we just shut up and colored. Now, all right, I don't honestly know a whole lot about Berhalter, but I feel like there's still too much tinkering under the hood going on. And I'd kind of like to see that settle out. Now, I don't have 1/10 of the football IQ that he has. So maybe I'll, at the end of this, be like, I was an idiot. I'm that standard Monday morning quarterback who has all the answers but never coached a game, right? That's just kind of where I feel like I don't, like I said, I don't like the inconsistency and I don't like the constant change. It's like, let's get an identity. Let's start developing these relationships and see how we can gel, and then let them just rep after rep after rep get better and better.
Yeah, because should there not be, here we are, we're in the spring prior to a winter World Cup. should your identity at this point not be dialed in? You know, the
Or
state of your
close,
play, right? Your state of play
Yeah.
should be dialed in at this point. I mean, you shouldn't still, I won't say you shouldn't still be tinkering. Maybe you should, but it shouldn't be wholesale issues at this point.
Well, but here's the thing: Canada's the only team in the CONCACAF that looks good. I mean, Mexico's in kind of struggling and in shambles. We are. I mean, no one in CONCACAF's like pumping it out, except for, surprisingly enough, Canada, who's hitting on all cylinders. They're the only ones who haven't figured it out so far. So, look, take that for what it's worth. I mean, the good news is yeah, this is February. We're not playing for what till November, so we've still
There's
got
time.
another 9 months.
Right.
Ish.
Now,
8-9 months ish.
if we look at just straight stat lines, and again, I know it's hard to kind of cost this out over time because they don't all fall into the same thing. But if we just look at Greg Berhalter currently as the head coach, 47 matches played since he took over in 2018. He's got a 76.6% win percentage currently. So the one you mentioned, Grinch Bruce Arena, who far and away
Hated him. God,
far and away in his two tenures, 98 to 2006, 2016 to 2017, 148 matches, and his win percentage was only 66.55. Now, again, if you were to take any 47 games of Bruce Arenas, what was his win percentage? So I get there's going to be some discrepancies. Jurgen Klinsmann, 2011 to 2016, 98 matches played, a 64.29 win percentage. Either way, Greg Berhalter currently has the highest win percentage of any U.S. men's national coach. So maybe that does speak volumes about what he's doing.
And for what it's worth, okay, in the world rankings, and this is as of 10 February, Mexico's ranked 12th, the United States is ranked 13th, and Canada is 33rd.
Right. And you go,
And then
does
you
that make sense?
Right. And then you go to Costa Rica 42nd, Jamaica 62nd, Panama 63rd, and then it just goes up from there all the way down to, freaking, and what is it? Anguilla? 209th,
Right.
So in terms of like the level of competition, I mean, if between Mexico, USA, and Canada, which I think is a closer benchmark to what the World Cup would look like in terms of next level, and we've said this with college football, like if you're an elite team, what is it that they say? Good teams win, great teams cover, kind of idea of like, if you're as good as you're supposed to be consistently, you're going to win those games 90+% of the time and look pretty good in the process, as opposed to, eked another one out.
Right.
To me,
Go ahead, brother.
no, I was just going to say, to me, it kind of feels like I think we're still one cycle away. I would love to see us get in, because I'd love to see more of what we are, to see if we're developing an identity, more of, core players getting to play together more so that they can feel out that identity and learn each other's weaknesses and strengths, learn how to play to each other's style. That's what I would love to see, but I'm not so sure that's what we're going to get. I really feel like we're one cycle away.
And let's just say we make it. Now we're probably reliant on a favorable draw.
Yep.
Because the top teams in the world in order: Belgium, Brazil, France, Argentina, England, Italy, Spain, Portugal, Denmark, Netherlands, Germany, and then you get to Mexico and the United States.
Yeah, the teams you expect to be sitting in the top spots.
Right.
And the road to winning goes through them. No matter what you do, it's going through somebody there. Now, ultimately, we're projecting down the road, 8-9 months down the road, whatever. And this conversation, we need to pull back to the end of March. Just in the next few weeks, do we get into the World Cup is the question. We have 3 teams to get through: Panama, Costa Rica, Mexico. Historically, Mexico gives us an issue. Costa Rica gives us an issue. It's a toss-up with Panama. Like, again, we're 1-1-1, 1 draw, 1 win, 1 loss against them in the last 3 World Cup qualifiers. 2 away games, 1 home game. Is the United States in a position to get into the World Cup? And even if they land in the 4th spot, they still have to play an Oceanic conference, I believe I saw. New Zealand. They're going to have to play New Zealand, who won their conference, I believe, to get into the World Cup. So even if you fall in the 4th spot, you go, okay, we still got a shot. We play the wild card game, we get in. Is that a guarantee? I don't know where that game occurs. I don't know when that game occurs. I tend to err with what you're saying, Grinch. No identity, or they haven't shown us their identity. There's still some struggles. There's still some questions. And at this late hour, this is not when you should be having those. I mean, you're going to be playing 3 World Cup qualifiers. Then you're not going to be playing, unless it's an international friendly, nothing that really prepares you for the World Cup until you get to the World Cup.
Yeah. And I'll kind of revisit something we talked about when we talked, was it the summer of soccer, maybe? That it's like the classic Rocky, right? Like, it's stereotypical that, the U.S. is going to put in the work. They're going to work their tails off. They're going to take their lumps, but at the end come up battered and bruised and be like, we made it. Okay. Well, these other teams aren't not working hard as well. Right. So just simple stamina, fitness, and all those things, they aren't going to get it. It'll keep you maybe in the game for a while, but it's the strategy and the culture of the play. And we've said this before. I've yet to understand, and we're a mutt nation. I suppose that would be reflective in how we play. But I feel like, maybe somewhere we're going to catch lightning in a bottle, and just somehow the combination of different cultural influences all meshes on the field. And it's just like beauty, it's just beautiful to watch. I haven't seen it yet.
What do I want? I want to go back to 2016, and I want USA in the World Cup to be Iceland in the 2016 Euros, a country of 355,000, bouncing England, who was a perennial favorite at, 68 million people in that country. They've always had a dominant team, and Iceland came in and beat them. And the way everybody got behind them, I would love to see that for the men's national team here. Do I think that's going to happen? No, because I worry that we're going to do the same thing we always do. We're going to get there, and then we're going to be shown for who we are, or what our gameplay actually is when you're trying to play at a level with teams. Like you said, you're not going to outwork these teams. Everybody at this level is working their asses off. And so, I would love to get there and be able to have everybody go, holy shit, look at this team. Just to beat somebody, beat a Spain, beat an England, beat a Germany. I still think we're a good 4 to 8 years away from that being a possibility. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope, here 8-9 months from now, I hope we get that experience. But I don't know. I see a lot of quality soccer over here, football over here. And I can tell you, it's just different for them over here. Right. Well,
we just don't treat it the same, and we don't get the best athletes. We don't get the best athletes out of our country playing soccer. We just don't.
Yeah, they're going to go basketball. They're going to go football because that's where you're going to make money.
If
you're that
Odell
elite.
Beckham Jr. and LeBron James were playing soccer, I mean, they would be freaking just wholly dominant. It'd be ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say that. I was looking at the stats of this kid that's a recruit. He's 17. He squats 615. I'm like, how is this possible? How is this possible that a 17-year-old, like, if you found that kind of raw athleticism and just put it into like different form and said, I just want you to run nonstop the entire game, just run nonstop.
Right.
But the physicality is so different in the sport, right?
That's it, right?
Fluidity.
Being able to squat that much doesn't really
translate
to international football.
No, it's all. I mean, it's purposeful working out. I would have no doubts. I mean, at that level, you're not going, I'm going to get my bench to whatever and think it will translate to the field, to your point. So it's probably more like, ego fitness of just looking good. Yeah.
Well, we know how you feel about ego fitness
after you score. Yeah.
We know how you feel about that.
Yeah.
I was trying to see, because I one of the other things I think is interesting in terms of our nation's identity to football or soccer as it is if you look at you look at our coaches. Greg Bergholter has been there 4 years. The last head coach, Dave Saracen, 1 year. Bruce Arena, 2 tenures. 1 year, and his previous tenure was 8 years. Jurgen Klinsmann, 5 years. Bob Bradley, 5 years. A lot of these guys, they're not Steve Sampson, 3 years. Bora Milutinovic, 4 years. The next guy, John Kowalski, 1 year. Like, we haven't had a sustainable head coach. It's almost like we get to a point where they have taken us as far as they can take us. Something happens and they're gone. They bring in someone new, and it's just like, it's this constant revolving door. So, well, I agree. Over 4 or 5 years, you generate continuity. But when you look at a World Cup cycle of 4 years, a lot of these guys have only been through one World Cup cycle at 4 or 5 years tenure, and then they're moving on or they're getting fired. So we haven't had a coach. Help me out, Haas, the German national coach, Jurgi Low. No,
Low. Yeah, the guy who likes to scratch and sniff.
The weirdo. But he was there for fucking years, it felt like. Yeah. And so he was able to generate an identity and then just kind of capitalize on that very German nature to football. So I wonder if that's part of our issue. And of course, the conversation's always, should it be an American coach? Should we have an international coach? A Brazilian, a German, an Englishman, to help kind of mold the identity. Well, I don't know.
Well, and certainly, it's, if maybe learning, I don't know what I'm going to learn yet, but as I say this, but I mean, learning from the best in the world. Okay. Belgium's been ranked number 1 since 2018. They have a population of 11.5 million.
Okay.
And they've been ranked number 1 since 2018. Like, I assume that's because they have constructed a whole that is greater than the sum of its parts, and it just works.
Yes.
And they know it inside and out, and the machine is running. This is like, for the United States, it's like, well, let's try these tires. New transmission, like,
Yeah. I think to your point, we need to kind of almost drop back at this point. Go look at, a country that's been doing this for years and years and years, and look at it as from the totality, right? The youth, the youth league, bringing kids up through that, right? And it's going to be a process, and it's not going to be a process that's going to happen in 1 or 2 World Cup cycles, right? You're going to have to start. I mean, it's going to be a generational shift, honestly. You've got to start getting these kids when they're younger into the sport and out of these other sports if you really want to be competitive.
Right. I don't know the answer, but it begs the question of, if in 2010 Belgium was ranked 57th, what changed in 10 to 12 years?
They had enough generational talent come up at the same time.
Well, something happened in 2012 because they jumped from 41 to 21, and then from 2012 to 2013 they jumped from 21 to 11. And then from 11 to 4 by 2014, hovered in there, went to 5th, and then 1.
But I think Toss's point is that bringing along, you got this group of people, at a young age, you brought them along through your national youth system. Obviously they played at other places, when they weren't playing for the national team, but they played together for, 10, 15, 20 years. And finally kind of, came to fruition.
Well, and that brings up a great point. The other problem we have is our country is so large that you could have great generational talent, 4 or 5 players in the U.S. coming up at the same time that are never playing together. Whereas in some of these countries, that's not the case.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, I mean, go ahead, Gretch.
I'm going to go.
I mean, no, go ahead.
No, me. No, I want
to. Using Brazil, their lowest ranking ever was 22nd.
Yeah.
Now,
you can't compare us
again,
to Brazil.
Ignorance. Well, it's I didn't make the point before giving you this information, but in terms of the population dispersion across Brazil, I naively will say they may be more prone to identifying talent that is like the next generation, like just different, and knowing what sport they're going to go into, because it's not like college football, baseball, or basketball is a thing, to the same extent in Brazil.
Right.
And I think
hockey shouldn't discount hockey. I mean, you get some super athletic people.
But how do we get those kids into that sport? And I think, unfortunately, part of the problem is when you're talking to kids at that age, I mean, okay, you can go potentially play football and make millions of dollars. You can go play baseball and make millions of dollars. Or you can go play for the MLS and have a job during the winter bagging groceries to make ends meet.
Right.
I got a plan. Here we go.
All right.
We're
solved the world's problem.
We're suspending all other sports at the high school and collegiate level besides college football. Everybody else has to play soccer. We'll guarantee NIL deals, and then we'll get our batch and get this thing rolling. We'll prime the pump, and then next World Cup we'll reassess if we let the other sports play.
I mean, tongue in cheek, but it's going to take something like that though to get us. If we as a country even want to get there, right? I mean, and that's the other problem. We may not, the U.S. may not care enough to be, the best in.
I'm like, what the fuck did I just see? Yeah. Sorry to throw you off there.
Completely
Haas is over there rimming the bottle.
No shit. To our listeners, we apologize. This one went off the rails briefly. Haas, I don't know what that was, but that was a little.
Oh, he knows. He knows.
Mac,
I didn't appreciate the heavy eye contact while you did it, but
yes. All right, so Mac, I'm going to redirect this conversation because I do want to stay on task, because obviously we're talking about the men's national team. But no, the interesting part is, like you mentioned, Belgium being world number one right now, and so I was quickly scanning Belgium's national team roster. I guess it's weird that I know more names on their team than I know on my own U.S. men's national team. And maybe it's because I do enjoy.
I think that's circumstantial, though.
Well, I think that's because they probably play more international
club football,
which you watch,
right?
And a lot of our MLS players, aside from a handful, probably play, or a lot of our national players on the U.S. team probably play more MLS, which you don't watch as much. I don't think.
You might be surprised. We have a lot.
We have a handful. I agree,
but a lot of MLS players are absolutely playing in the MLS. You're right.
Yes, they are.
No denying it. I'm not arguing.
100% of our MLS players are playing in the MLS.
Yes. But
thank you, Zoamana.
Yeah. Ultimately,
just can't win. I don't even know why I show up. Just gonna sit over here and enjoy.
Keep rimming that bottle, and you'll be fine.
I'm gonna. Thank you.
Ultimately, I worry that we look at it and we go, we're in second spot in the CONCACAF standings, 3 games left. We're there. It's easy. Like, and again, what you said, we only need 1 win, 1 in 3. No, what you need is 3 wins.
Is, I don't think anybody here thinks that, though. Amongst the 4 of us, I don't think anybody says, "Oh, we're in." With 3 games left, we're in.
But I agree with you. But I think, by and large, the American population that does follow football goes, we're in second spot, and we're probably 1 win and we're in. But again, it's not a 1 win and you're in thing. Yes, you may be
anything,
but you need to really dominate the next 3 games in preparation for not getting dominated in November.
And that's it, right? Do you want to settle for mediocrity? Right. Okay, fine. We made it to the World Cup. Yay. And we got bounced in the group stage again.
Right. We're going to go back
to want to build something sustainable that allows you to compete and get out of that into the round of 16 and then potentially progress even further. Right. And I'm not even going to say about getting into the finals because, that's a long way off, I think.
I mean, 2002 was the last time we made it to the quarterfinals it was Japan and Korea. South Korea and Japan, I believe, hosted that dual host of the World Cup, and we got into the quarterfinals. Yeah, let's get out of the group. Let's get out of the group stage first. 1998, the shadow of Steve Sampson. You get to the World Cup, and then you get bounced in France, and you're the 32nd team, 32 out of 32. Now you can always go, yeah, but we're 32 out of 206 teams in the world that try to get into this thing. That's not bad.
It's not even just about getting out of the group stage once, right? It's consistently getting out. Like if you look at like a Spain, or a Germany or a France, even they expect, we're getting out of the group stage. It's almost a foregone conclusion. They still play the game.
Their citizens will buy tickets, into the knockout stages with no reservations.
They anticipate that they're going to be there, right?
Right.
So they're not buying to cancel insurance on their hotel stay or their.
Like we don't
flight.
exactly shit.
Yeah.
Now, ultimately, does it guarantee us anything? No. I mean, obviously, you talk about, the French, obviously defending world champions, even though Belgium's currently number one, we know that France is the defending world champions. They're going to be coming into Qatar or Qatar or however the fuck you say it.
I said it Qatar forever, but it is Qatar.
Is it really?
Qatar? Okay. Yeah, that's interesting because I think I referred to it as Qatar earlier. So it's
weird that they don't spell it Cutter because that's how I would pronounce Qatar or spell Qatar, but okay.
And this is why we can't win a freaking football game to save our lives, because we can't pronounce other countries.
Apparently not. It's interesting because I'm looking at the roster for the French national team. Not a one of them plays in the MLS. Isn't that interesting?
Mbappe doesn't play for the MLS.
Yeah, well, none of them are that close to retirement, so that's why.
Give them 6 years or so.
Hold on, Belgian national team. Nope, not a one plays in the MLS. Look at that. I bet if I look at Spain, if I look at fucking Brazil, probably none of them play either. But it is what it is.
You play where the competition is, right?
Yes.
I mean, if you want to get better, you got to go play against the best in the world. And quite frankly, it's not in the MLS right now.
That's why Kylian Mbappe is talking about leaving Paris Saint-Germain for Liverpool and not like Seattle Sounders, because he's going to go.
Charlotte FC, thank you very much. I was reading an article. They're close to signing that deal.
That's bullshit.
For Mbappe.
Legal has advised me that you can't actually say that.
Are they leveraging the entire city to do it? Because that's the only way they're getting him.
Yes, we've pretty much bulldozed every building in the city.
That's right. We've mortgaged the
stadium to sell off material to pay for that. So
yeah,
he'll look good in mint green. So
and black. Look, your uniforms look sharp, no doubt. But get out and actually win something before you start talking shit. Okay, you haven't even done that. You've actually only lost one game. That's all you've done is lost one game.
It's not the American way.
We're the underdog. Then the issue is going to be you got to have the right players. Grinch, as you said at the outset, they all have to be firing at the same time. You got to have the right coaching staff. You have the right technical play, the right scheme, the right game plan. And you need all of those working together to be successful long term. Haas, you've said it. One more cycle. What does that mean? One more cycle? You're talking another World Cup cycle before they're really ready to compete?
4 years.
So are they ready to be there this year? They going to be there this year?
I don't know, man. I want them to be, but
I mean, a few months ago, you felt really confident.
Like I said earlier, before the game against Canada, I felt pretty good.
And Honduras,
I think they
got shellacked.
You think so?
I think they will. Now, will they be competitive? No, I don't think they'll be competitive once they get to the World Cup. But I do think, looking at the 3 games they have left, what they need to do to make it in, I think it's very doable. I think they can make that leap and get to the World Cup. But again, to me, it needs to be more about not just making it to the World Cup, but when you get there, winning some games and moving on.
Right.
What does getting to the World Cup?
Don't be the whipping post.
What does getting to the World Cup mean if you're not being competitive? It's the freaking Honolulu Bowl. It's a consolation prize. Okay, we get to go on this really cool trip, but we know we're not going to win.
It's the NFL's Pro Bowl. Yeah,
exactly.
We get to go to that.
Which now you just get to go to Orlando or Las Vegas.
Come on, you don't even get to go to Hawaii.
You don't get to go to Hawaii anymore. Come on.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mac. They need to get in, but they also need to be competitive when they're there. But you shouldn't be putting the cart before the horse. They got to get in first. And unfortunately, 2018, looking at that, and now where we are 4 years later, 3 years later, whatever, going, okay, we should be rolling down the track, ready to go. These should really just be, in essence, just like pickup games. Like, look, I get it. It's Mexico. And were it any other three teams, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But the three teams they're going to face are historically three teams they've struggled against in World Cup competition in terms of qualifiers.
Well, but you should, to your point, you should be able to look at it and say, okay, Panama, Costa Rica probably wins. Mexico is Mexico, right? They're gonna, that could be a loss. That could go either way.
Well, when we played them with the end of 2021 in the U.S., we beat them 2-0.
We won.
They beat them. Yeah.
We did.
Yeah.
So we're not playing them on home soil.
But again, I'm just saying
that
match can go either way, I think. But you should be able to look at it. You should be at a point where you should be able to look at it and say, we're going to beat Canada. I mean, if this were hockey, okay, fine. I give you that this could be a good match.
And which is weird because Canada's ranked like 33 in the world, and they're sitting in the top of the CONCACAF. Like, it's just weird.
Yeah, what's wrong with the world?
Right. You expect Mexico to be at the top, USA to be at the top. You don't expect Canada to be sitting there as dominant as they are. And I think that's what gives me pause going, maybe we're going to be sitting on the outside of the World Cup looking in again. I don't want to be. I didn't want to be in 2018. I mean, I do like being able to root for them, but
so
yes,
something I this is a random Google thing. Is it right? I'm not positive. I think so because it comes from FIFA's website.
Okay.
The lowest ranked team to ever win a World Cup was France in 1998. That came in at 8. That was ranked in the world 18th.
Right.
Next is Italy.
Zidane, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Next is Italy. It was 13th.
No.
Otherwise, you jump from 13th to 7th, and then like second, third. My point being, the teams that tend to win are the ones you expect to win. And drawing a correlation from college football, which we, is near and dear to our heart, it'd be like saying, hey, do you think Kentucky's going to win it all next year? Statistically, the stats tell you beforehand, it's highly unlikely. Not impossible, never zero, highly unlikely. So in terms of where the U.S. is positioned, is it impossible? No. Is it likely? No. But in terms of how they need to shape maybe their goals, I think they need to think of this as if we can get into the World Cup, the reps for our up and comers is invaluable. That's how we need to think about it. And maybe that's the answer to Berhalter, like his strategy right now, is he is building the experience going, we ain't ready to win it all. So let's just keep working with what we've got to see if we can find that special sauce. And in the meantime, keep getting better. I don't know. It's just a theory I made up as I kept looking at this.
Well, and in saying that, and then going back on what Thor was talking about earlier, he's still the winningest coach.
Right. It's 76% or whatever.
And I realize it's a much smaller sample size, but still, it is what it is. So maybe it feels as though it's trending in the right direction. The question is, do we get over the hump? Are we going to get over this hump and get in the World Cup?
Here's my concern. We're sitting on the cusp of whether or not we get into or not get into 2022. We know we didn't make 2018. Berhalter's been in his position for 4 years. The concern being in 2026, we know the World Cup's going to be here. I think we can ill afford not making it into this World Cup because then you're going to lose patronage. You're going to lose viewers who are going to go fucking World Cup team again.
Yeah, back to back, right?
Knowing you're going into a 2026 World Cup that's going to be held here in North America between Canada, Mexico, and the USA. Those games are going to be played here. You're going to want that viewership to be as large as possible, the support to be as large as possible. So you want to make a good showing, as Max said. You don't want to just get there. You want to get there and make a good showing in preparation because you get an automatic. I think you get an automatic bid in.
Yeah, I was going to say,
if you're the host nation, you get an automatic bid.
But how is that going to work though? Are you going to get 3 automatic bids?
Yes.
I mean, the U.S., Mexico, and Canada
will all get
automatic bids.
Which is why I believe Grinch said they increased the field to 48 teams. Was that right?
I think I closed that tab.
Yeah, I think they increased that.
It goes to 48 next World Cup.
Right. And that's because they get 3 automatic bids here. So, but I don't think you want to come in on knowing that's coming. You don't want to not get into this World Cup. You want to get in, make a good showing in preparation for that World Cup in 4 years.
And you've got 3 nations worth of stadiums to work with,
Right.
all that have at least one or several that can match what you'd want the attendance to be. Something else, I haven't looked at everybody's roster, but I would hazard to say Canada's is the one I was curious to look at. But if you look at Belgium's squad,
Yes.
the last names of everybody on that team, it
Yes.
is clear what their heritage is.
You mean
Now,
Belgium?
now you jump to the United States.
And you're not so sure.
McKenzie, Zimmerman, Yedlin, Robinson, Cannon, Dest, Acosta, Roldan, De La Torre, McKinney, Musa.
Areolas.
It is now, and we know that doesn't inherently mean anything specifically.
No, because you called us a mud nation.
Exactly. It suggests it's an amalgamation. It's the classic melting pot, salad bowl, whatever terms we've used over the anthropology of our country. And so it takes a special person to figure out, it's a pro and a con, right? The pro is you bring all kinds of different types of talent to the table. The con is you got to figure out how to make that work. Because if the system doesn't drive it, and then you just keep finding the right people to fit the system, or you're in that cultural clash of trying to make this, and we've said this constantly in college football. I had the system, but I didn't have the right players. Well, then why did you stay with that system?
Right.
Right. I mean, and that's our dilemma, is we're somewhere in between those two things. And it hasn't quite gotten to the harmony of the yin and the yang. It ebbs and flows. And I guess that's my suspicion of why the consistency isn't there. Because as you're tinkering with different players who maybe started playing football, soccer in one region, they know this, that, and the other. They're trying to figure out too what their role and identity is in that system. At least with college football, you've got 3 recruiting classes plus that are already in that system, assuming coaching stability. And they're like, hey, young buck, let me tell you how you're going to fit in. And you've got 1, 2, maybe 3 upperclassmen that are all going to help coach and mentor you because they're moving on next year.
Right.
That isn't quite how the team works. We did it to a fault back with Arenas of Landon Donovan. Okay, I like Landon Donovan. I appreciate what he did to help get the sport where the team where it is. But we almost did it to a fault until it finally took some uncomfortableness to go, you're not the starter anymore.
Right.
Look at the average ages of some of these teams. There is a sweet spot, it seems like, of the high end, maybe your goalie high end, like Tim Howard, I think was a little older. So he's not there anymore, of course, but your goalie, okay, 32 for the US team. And then you get down to I just don't know how to pronounce his name. It's Pepi, but Ricardo Pepi, 19. 32 and 19, that's trying to make all that work in a locker room.
Right.
Who's the leader? If you're the striker, are you the leader? I don't know. Right now, if I look at the US team and I say, who is the heartbeat of this team? Who is the Roy Kent or what was
in the
name?
midfield? It's going to be Yedlin for sure.
But does he own that locker room? Is he able to be like, hey, bro, what the hell?
Right.
I don't know about own.
Well, if you look at some of your major teams and in terms of top talent, guys that are just generational talent, like you look at a Brazil, probably everything goes through Neymar. You look at an Argentina, everything's going through Messi at the national level. If you look at England, everything's probably going through Harry Kane. France, everything's going through Paul Pogba in the midfield. Belgium, everything's going through De Bruyne in the midfield. Like they know the guys. But when I look at our team, like you said, Yedlin, I look at our team and I go, I don't, and I know Michael Bradley used to be that guy who was never really that guy.
Right.
And they tried to shoehorn him into being that guy.
We didn't mention Bradley, did we? Or did
no,
you?
And there's a reason.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Kellen Acosta is probably our strongest midfielder. Or I mean, he's the one with the most experience for sure.
But I mean, if you look at some of those teams that I mentioned, those players, while they are generational talent and they are really good, they know their place in the system. There's no question. And everybody that walks into that locker room, like in Argentina, they know you go through Messi because that's how that team is built.
De Bruyne is 30 years old, by the way.
But here we don't have that. In my opinion, we don't have that. I don't look at our roster. I don't look at anybody on our team and go, that's the guy we go through. That's the guy that's the playmaker. That's the guy that makes a difference. That's the, he's the one the coach says, you dictate field of play, or the play that occurs on the field, like that type of thing, where you look at some of these other teams and that's how it works. And they just know.
Am I correct in saying De Bruyne plays for Manchester City?
Yes, he does. And he does the same thing for City that he does for Belgium. He is the playmaker in the midfield. Everything tends to funnel through him. Paul Pogba plays for Man United. Everything tends to funnel through him in the midfield. Messi plays for PSG. Everything tends to funnel through him in the last third of the field. And so they're just built that way. Now, obviously, you can look at a PSG with Kylian Mbappe and Lionel Messi and Neymar. I mean, those are three huge names to have on one team. Most teams are not going to have that, but
most teams aren't going to have even one of that.
Well, because they're not going to have they're not going to have the bankroll to be able to have that. But I don't know. I look at our team and like I said, I think Grinch, what you said at the outset, the lack of identity and kind of an understanding of where they're at is a cause for concern. Does that mean they don't get into the World Cup? No, I can't say by and large that they will not make it. It was a surprise in 2017 when they didn't make it. I would love to see them make it. I'm not sold on it. And that is a concern because again, then you go, well, we're 4 years out from a World Cup at home. What if they shit the bed? Do they fire Greg Berhalter and then have to start again with a new coach 4 years prior to a World Cup at home? That's not a good.
If they don't make it, I don't know. Berhalter's shown that he's at least trying something different. And I think that's where we needed because we had all these old-minded, old crusty dudes coming in trying to do the same shit over and over and over again, and it clearly was not a success. So
let Lexi Lawless do it.
Oh, fuck
right?
you.
Because I know Grinch is a big fan of Alexi Lawless. We can let him do it.
Oh, God. That guy. That's my least favorite thing about World Cup coverage is him.
He's the most arrogant, I haven't done a whole lot player I think I've seen, short of like a Stephen A. or Max Keller, who's never played the sport of any kind, yet has all the fucking answers.
Of course.
God.
You mean like we think we do sometimes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Hold on. We played the sport.
Hey, I've told you, we're not above hypocrisy.
Okay. Just making sure. I just wanted to.
It takes a big man to admit when he's wrong, and I am not a big man.
That's right. Yeah, it was. I don't know that it was much of a debate. I was curious to see how everybody would feel about this topic, and we'll see how it translates when the listeners listen back to it. I will support the U.S. men's national team regardless. Obviously, being here in the States, being an American, I want them to be successful. I want them to do well, as I'm sure you all do as well. And Haas, I know you said it in the 2018 World Cup. There was something nice and relaxing about the fact they didn't make it because you could watch the World Cup in an entirely different way without the stress of what are the men's national team going to do this week in this match. But I would still like to see them make it. I don't want them to miss 2 cycles going into a World Cup that's going to be played at home in 2026. So I think ultimately we've established that some things still need to happen. Some tinkering needs to be done as we kind of finish up here in March and these last 3 games, Panama, Costa Rica, and Mexico. Fingers crossed that they can I'd love to see 3 wins, 3 dominating wins, 2 away, 1 at home in Orlando against Panama. I'd love to see all 3 games be dominant performances by the U.S. And that way they are hopefully prepared and they're dialed in come November. When the World Cup starts, they're in and they can make a nice deep run. Like Max said, deep is always better. I think most women would agree. Deep is always better. It doesn't have to be hard, but deep is always better.
Wide and
Wide. Okay,
Wide,
wide. I
yeah.
didn't
How
know.
do you accomplish one without?
Keep telling yourself.
Well, I'm saying you don't have to drill it like a jackhammer. You can just
it's like
deep.
playing pool with a rope.
Yes.
Putting a marshmallow in a piggy
oh my
bank.
god, the visuals you create.
Thank you for that.
Oh, wow.
Gentlemen, weekend and week out, I do appreciate y'all being here as Grinch laughs awkwardly in
Jesus,
the background.
bro.
I appreciate y'all being here, giving us your hot takes and your perspective
You
on each
started
of these
this.
topics. No.
I just did the off
That's
the top
right.
rope at the end.
Thank you, Macho Man Randy Savage. And so we will leave you all there. Obviously, all of you masturbators, feel free to drop us a line at the Four Horsemen at aspiriteddebate.com. FOUR,
brother.
FOUR horsemen at aspiriteddebate.com. The Four Horsemen. Please feel free to drop us a line about this topic or any other topic that we've covered. Give us your feedback. If there's a topic you'd like us to debate, please let us know. We'd love to do that. Maybe we can get you on the show and have you come in here behind the curtain and argue your topic with the four of us. Obviously, go to our website at aspiriteddebate.com. Check out all the drinks that we have here. You can check out this brand new. I just made it. It is one of a kind. The Paloma Rita Sunrise in honor of the Big Mac, our very own chief margarita officer. 3 iconic beverages in one. Feel free to go there.
Our svelte
Yes.
chief margarita officer.
Absolutely. The man he is a fat melting machine, in case you weren't sure. I'm going to go ahead and throw that out there. So yes, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you to all our listeners. Love being here. Love doing this with you guys week in and week out. And we will do this again next week. So thank you. The views, information, or opinions expressed during the A Spirited Debate podcast series or any affiliated podcast are solely those of the hosts or guests involved and do not represent those of people, institutions, or organizations that the host or guests may or may not be associated with in a professional or personal capacity, unless explicitly stated. While guests are invited to listen, listeners acknowledge that they are not being provided professional advice from the podcast or its guests. The content within the parameters of A Spirited Debate podcast series or any affiliated podcast are for entertainment and educational purposes only. Any views or opinions are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, or individual.